So it's getting on towards dusk. We have one more stop after this one, but we thought after visiting the BAE site and the old shopping center that we wanted to sort of decompress. So we grabbed a coffee and we came down here. This is Secret Beach on the Colorado River, part of the municipal park system. So we wanted to, again, ground ourselves in nature a little bit. And before the Tracor BAE site, we'd actually gone to the Samsung plant. But it's a huge complex there, the largest semiconductor facility that they have in North America, which has been in the Austin area since the mid-90s. Huge plant, and it had very high security, so we were not able to park anywhere close to the building, and the highway where we were outside was really, really loud. So we just decided to decamp, and we thought, well, maybe we could talk about Samsung in the not metaverse, which would be this park on the side of the Colorado River here in the heart of Austin. And it's looking into Samsung. It's a Korean company dating to the late 1930s. It started out in the grocery business, and then later throughout the 1960s and 70s evolved into textiles, chemicals, a lot of other things, and then ultimately into consumer electronics. And so it's very deeply into the consumer electronic space, both through its phones and chips, and increasingly it's going to be through the Internet of Things as well. So I want to take a minute just to read over a bit of a press release from this past August, about Samsung joining 200 firms in Korea's Metaverse Alliance. Because we've been talking a lot the past couple of days about the metaverse, and you won't be able to see exactly what this is, but it's groups of people in VR headsets, and they're all sort of staring into lights. I don't know, there's lights that are plugging them in, and they're just sitting on little pods, and it looks terrible. And it says, what makes metaverse indispensable? So it's these isolated people sitting on chairs in pods and staring at nothing into their headset. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this because I think they say it better than I could. Samsung Electronic Companies has onboarded South Korea's government-led Metaverse Alliance in a move to strengthen partnership in virtual reality, VR, augmented reality, AR, and artificial intelligence, AI sectors. According to the Ministry of Science and ICT on August 3rd, this is 2021, a total of 202 firms are participating in the Metaverse Alliance, with a number of new joiners that include Samsung, and other companies have newly joined, including Shinhan Bank, KB Kookmin Bank, SM Entertainment Company, Megasteady EDU Company, and Child Worldwide. Okay, so this is a big deal, government-led initiative. This is probably the counterpoint to Japan's moonshot goal. It says that this alliance kicked off on May 18th with 25 firms. So by August, it was already up to 200. The initial members included the three telecom giants, SK Telecom, KT Corp, and LG U+, as well as automaker Hyundai, Naver affiliate Naver Labs, and Kakao affiliate Kakao Entertainment. So again, we're talking mobility control systems, entertainment systems, and telecom systems. It says the main objective of the alliance is to establish the country's metaverse ecosystem by growing the metaverse-related AR, VR, and extended reality sectors. The alliance has also designated 6 key industries that will adopt more metaverse technologies moving forward, and these include medicine, manufacturing, construction, education, retail, and national defense. They have high expectation for Samsung's involvement in the alliance because Samsung Electronics has previously deployed virtual reality devices, including Gear VR and HMD Odyssey Plus, and is currently developing its own augmented reality glasses. And this is a quote, "If Samsung can at least partially transfer some technologies to other firms within the alliance, it will accelerate the creation of a full-fledged metaverse ecosystem in Korea," said an official of a medium-sized metaverse company. So that's, in the cloud-based world, what happens in Korea is not so distant from what happens in Austin. Again, I had mentioned earlier that Samsung is the second largest employer in the technology space after Dell here in Austin, and they have North America's largest semiconductor manufacturing plant. And a lot of those chips are devices that go into mobile phones, and And then these mobile phones, I guess, including this, so guilty as charged, are, although mine is not Samsung, but will be guiding our lives and part of the whole enclosure system, the geofencing system. So Samsung's newer phones have actually developed blockchain wallet systems that are embedded, and as I've mentioned before in other talks, I think that, you know, the blockchain identity, the digital identity, is that sort of linchpin between the physical reality world and then the digitally twinned world. And it's to hold all of your digital assets in both places, and as well as your digital rights and privileges as tokens. So this is all coming online. Samsung is also developing a lot around batteries, because these devices all run on batteries, and if you're going to live in the metaverse, you need to constantly have your devices functioning as intended. So they actually have done quite a bit of research around graphene-related batteries, extending the life of their lithium-related batteries. So, you know, when we're talking about enclosures, and what it means to live in the metaverse, you know, that last stop I had talked about with BAE, that it was a militarized space, that this space was a militarized ecosystem, even though on the surface it seems fun and convenient, but dating back to the 60s and sort of this post-war cybernetics AI feedback loop era, it's an enclosure, it's a digital enclosure, and that the ability of the enclosures that were developed in the defense space have now expanded far beyond that limited narrow confines into all of our domestic spaces, into our homes, into our parks, into our cars, into our schools, into our health centers, and all of this. And you know, again, just driving up to this giant compound factory where they're building the infrastructure for the metaverse, and being, you know, it has a fence all the way around it. It's disconnected from any community. It's really just out on this 6-lane highway. Everybody going to and fro, but not really. There's no community around it. It's not integrated in any meaningful way into the community, other than its economic impact, which I think they said they've put $17 billion into this factory and gotten like maybe 40 billion out in like economic benefit to Austin. But it's really just a machine. It's just an engine of the metaverse. And you know, it's just surrounded by fences, and you can't come in. You can't come in and see how they're building the metaverse. You got to go out, because this is private. But increasingly, these private spaces are looping back into the way we live our actual lives. So the last site that we're going to go to is the Travis County Housing Department. I think it's housing, maybe Housing and Health and Human Services, because in addition to the MyPass Austin ID 2020 blockchaining of unhoused people for social impact, Austin was also one of the pilot cities for permanent supportive housing tied to Pay for Success finance, and that was in conjunction with the St. David's Healthcare Foundation and Social Finance and the United Way and the municipal housing systems. And again, they were looking at, I mean, it's quite a large pilot to only target services to, I think, a couple dozen people, but these are people who have histories of judicial involvement, incarceration, and what they would deem overuse of hospital emergency services. So in that context, they're allowed housing, but as part of this impact space. And increasingly, I think it will be integrated in with smart housing systems that may be integrated into faith-based or healthcare-based assisted housing. And one of the places that we didn't get to go in Austin, because I think it's folded and I couldn't find its actual footprint, is an entity called Casita, with a K, K-A-S-S-I-T-A, and like Little House, kind of a play on Little House. And they were building small pod smart housing with integrated 60 Internet of Things sensors in these houses. And they were sold as, marketed as essentially sort of like in-law suites or some sort of thing that you could put in your backyard, maybe do a, you know, Airbnb or something, these independent units. Probably not a permanent housing solution, because they were very small, but they had, you know, self-contained smart appliances, smart lighting, smart toilets, smart music, smart blinds. Everything was smart access into these units that were sold as very attractive, sort of mid-century modern, like high tech. But you could imagine those really becoming data pods with a lot more lower end amenities for vulnerable populations. And possibly being used to have their data fuel the social impact markets, and even potentially built with piezoelectric smart materials to power the metaverse. So, you know, Casita actually folded. I mean, they had talked about rolling these houses off the assembly line just like cars, and they didn't have the market yet. The market hadn't happened, but if we're imagining sort of Agenda 21 stack and pack housing, housing for dislocated people, housing a la Ready Player One, right? In fact, so there's been some articles talking about that, that connection between Ready Player One and these stack and pack housing units. You know, that could very well be coming. So I think for now they're trying to sell it as a hotel, a unit-based hotel option. But I think we need to consider housing within the smart housing option, and as a counterpoint to living in the real world, where you can spend a Saturday with your feet in the water, picking up stones and shells, and being part of the larger system that is off the blockchain. So anyway, that's sort of my wrap-up for my experience at Samsung, which is a major presence in Austin, and what it implies of Austin being connected into larger global movements towards Korea's Metaverse Alliance.